Hey there, fellow digital marketer. Have you always felt like you could get more out of the Chrome DevTools? You know, the inspector that you can click on in the browser. And then when you open it, it shows so much information that you actually have no idea where to look for? Well, I've been in that place too, but I've mastered it by now. So I'm here to explain to you how you can actually use the DevTools or the inspector, however you want to call it, to your benefit. If you keep following along with my videos here, you're going to be learning how to use the Elements tab to make quick changes, to show your manager what a button would look like in a different color, or how you can switch around some information on a page just to convince other people inside your organization that it's the right thing to do. Or not, right? We're going to go into the console. How can you interact with JavaScript? What can you do with all of this? There's other tabs like the network tab, the performance tab, the Lighthouse tab. So much that I'm eager to show you, and I'm just not going to waste your time looking at me. Let's go into the computer and get into an overview of what all the tabs do and which ones we're actually going to be using as a digital marketer more. So before we dive into the most interesting panels, let's go through each one of them as a short introduction. What options do you have and what should you expect from them? So first of all, how do we open Chrome's DevTools? How do we open up the inspector? Well, very simple. You can just right click on any page and click inspect or click on Ctrl-Shift-Y. This will open a panel like this. It is possible that it opens it up inside of your browser and still shows you the website. And the reason for that is because you can decide yourself how you want to view this DevTools, this inspector. It can be on the side of the page, it can be on the bottom of the page, and it can actually also be on the other side of the page like this. My preference is more or less separate from the page, but if you have a very big screen, you can actually choose also to do it like this. And as you can see within here, I can drag everything up and down, make it bigger or smaller, and depending on how big it becomes, it actually starts putting things side by side. So now that we have this open, you immediately enter the Elements tab, and you can already see that when I hover over items in here, it makes them blue in the page. But before we go into the elements, I first want to show you what all of these tabs actually mean, what you can find here, and which ones are most interesting. So this one that we have right now, it is actually to check and manipulate HTML and CSS of the website. Everything that you see here is the current website, the page actually that you're seeing. When we go to the console, or the console, however you want to call it, this is to interact with JavaScript. And it's a very nice place to start learning JavaScript and experimenting with it whenever you find something curious online and you want to test out some code. The sources is where you can find all the files that are used for this specific page, and you can actually click through every single folder in here, and you can see that I have media. What media is this? So for example, there's this logo. You can just find that in here. It's not very special. It's not very interesting. You can't really do that much here. At least I don't do that much here. And I don't use it that much either. The network tab is a bit more interesting. This is where you can inspect all the activity of any website. Very interesting when you're doing performance and site speed analysis and you want to check out what's going on after you press enter when you type in a domain name in the browser. And what is it doing? Where is it going to? What sources is it fetching? How long does it take to fetch these sources? And there will be a specific video around this tab because it's pretty interesting. And then we have the performance tab. This is also one that I have a specific video about, and this shows how a page performs when it is running versus loading. So where with the network tab, you can open this up, you can refresh the page, and you get to see all the sources that are coming in and all the data that it is pulling from other places on the web. The performance tab is about how your browser is handling all of that. So that's the big difference between these two. Memory is a very complex one. It's really for developers to find memory issues that affect page performance. It's very technical. You have to think in terms of memory leaks, memory bloat, and frequent garbage collection. I myself don't use this one actually. So this is really for the developers. The application is where you will find all the local storage, the session storage, and the cookies. It's not super interesting, but here you can find all these key value pairs that are being stored for now for your local session, and over time, over multiple sessions, this is where they store all the session. You can access this via the console, so via JavaScript, but that's more interesting if you actually know JavaScript. And if you want to play around with that, you can see all the cookies that are placed. My website doesn't place that many cookies, but if you go to, let's say, Amazon.com, this one will be completely full, and you can scroll down into, many different, and you can look at many different cookies that you get. The rest, I don't use it myself that much. As a matter of fact, this whole page I don't use too much. You can ignore that. Security page, not too interesting, very basic information. You can view the certificate of the page that you're looking at or the website that you're looking at. As you can see, mine is given via Cloudflare. Here you get all of the information from when it is valid to where it's valid to, some keys, etc. And you can find that on any website where you're on. What else do we have? We have Lighthouse, and Lighthouse is of course where you can generate the performance reports for your website or for any page that you're looking at that time. If you want to do performance optimization of a website, this is the best place to start. Like if you're completely new to it, forget about the network tab, forget about the performance tab, start here because it's really simple. You just generate a report and it's going to give you a lot of information that you can then discuss with your developers, and there is not much need to start analyzing what is basically behind this report. There is more that you can do in here because there are actually, if you click on this one, these three dots, there are a lot more tools that you can have a look at. There are some of this we will go over when we're touching on the network and performance tabs. One that I want to give you that is actually for me that I use a lot is the network conditions. And what the network conditions allow you to do is to set the different user agent. This is very handy when you're behind a PC and you want to test out some different user agents. For example, you want to check out how Googlebot is looking at your website via their different setups. You don't have to install a plugin or whatsoever. You can just do that within Chrome itself. Select automatically and it'll go back to the default, which then would be the latest Chrome version. What else do we have here? We have the settings, and the settings is actually, there's a lot of things that you can install. You can set it, for example, to a dark theme. In my case, I just have it to a normal, to the same settings as what the system has. Most interesting on this page is to disable JavaScript. So whenever you want to see how JavaScript is impacting your website and you just want to have a quick view of that, you can just go into the DevTools, into the inspector, click on this little icon, and then scroll down, and here on the right bottom you have disable JavaScript. So let's do that and refresh the page. As you can see, it doesn't work because my website is a single page application completely built in JavaScript. Turn that off, refresh the page, and you can see it's working again. So that's a very handy one. Everything else in here is not really interesting except for the devices. Here you can set up which devices you want to be able to emulate when you're viewing a different device, which is what you can do here. So let's say you click this toggle, you turn that on. Here you can see that it now turns into a mobile page. Actually, it's responsive, so you get to decide how big or small it is that you want to see. And if you click here, you see all of the devices that you can emulate. And these devices are set up based on their actual sizes, right? So what they look like, or what are the actual sizes. That's very handy because, you don't have to open up your mobile phone. You don't have to buy 500 different phones or other devices. You can just check that out on with the help of this DevTools. And again, if you want to set up more, you can click on Edit, and it'll automatically go here, or you can set them up yourself and deselect whatever you don't need. Like, who needs Microsoft Lumia phones now, right? So that's very handy. While we are in this device mode, let's have a look at what we can do here, because we can not only do portrait mode or this mode, we can also go to portrait mode, where we can see how the website looks if we turn the phone horizontally and go back. What's also very handy is the media queries. And the media queries allow you to see how the developers decided to break up your website when it's built as a responsive website. So my website is built as responsive, and depending on certain moments, it is going to look a little bit different. And you can see how it's changing, right? I am here on the right top, and right now it's above 1200 pixels, which is like the biggest it can get. But if I go a little bit below it, the blue one picks up, which is below 1200 pixels. And so it goes smaller and smaller and smaller. And you get an idea of when it starts to break and when it starts to change its design. Just for you as a marketeer, very handy, because then you can sit down with the developer, the front-end developer, and say, hey, wait a minute, look at how small this image is here. That doesn't make any sense. And it looks like it starts to happen after, around 775 pixels, or 750 pixels. That's when it moves into the next breaking point, and then it doesn't look as nice anymore. Especially if you combine that then, of course, with the Google Analytics data, where you see that lots of visitors actually use that screen size. And then you have a good reason to optimize. So like I said, the most important and most interesting panels, in my opinion, for digital marketeer are the elements, the console, the Lighthouse, and after that, the network and performance tab. They help you to understand what is going on the page, interact with JavaScript, which we can do on the console, and understand performance-related challenges. If you want to know more about this, make sure to stick around to find out what you can do with the Elements tab in the next video.